So Marathon just added the new Vault Breaker LTM, and this is an entirely PVE version of Cryo Archive, and you can run this with the squad or run this solo. And while I think this is actually a very good thing for the future of this game, this is the second test of their PVE functions, and Bungie's been very clear that they are going to expand the PVE modes going into Season 3, and I expect there to be some sort of mini campaign on every map we currently have in the game. And a lot of people in the comments agree with me. Grenadier Jake, excited to give this a go tomorrow. Darth Mythoclass has been doing a solo playthrough of this game, and now he finally has a way to do solo Cryo Archive. But it's not all fun and games, love and roses within the Marathon community, because there's actually a contingent of hardcore PvP fans within Marathon who see this introduction of PvE as the death blow to their favorite game. And to me, that is kind of weird, because it's no secret that Marathon player numbers are not where they need to be. We need to pump up those numbers if this game is going to make it out of year 1 into year 3. And in my mind, making more ways to play Marathon is the solution, because the classic Bungie gameplay really holds this package together, and now they need to refocus to making this a platform that suits more types of players. Essentially the same idea they had with Destiny 2, but with more modernized tech, which is the reason they can't do this with Destiny 2. I want Destiny 2 fans to follow that train of thought. Destiny 2 is a very old game technology-wise, and Marathon was made with much more modern engines. It's much easier to add things to this game. It's very modular, and I think if Destiny fans give it a chance to grow, they might find something to like in here. And obviously a large part of the hate for Marathon comes from Destiny fans, but it's strange to see hate for Marathon coming within the Marathon community. Example with 403 likes. People begging for this mode to be permanent, as if playing PvE Marathon for any length of time won't immediately show how boring the gameplay loop is when you remove the thing the entire game is designed around. And the reason I find this statement odd is that most players have literally never gone into Cryo Archive. If Marathon is sold between 2 to 3 million copies, we have to consider that the amount of people who have played the endgame map is probably under 50,000, because Marathon never even reached 100k concurrence, and it pretty quickly dropped off a map. And I think the math of this is that people play Marathon for longer lengths of time, which is going to give you lower player peaks but more consistent averages, which is something we definitely see with Marathon. This comment here, this almost feels like a cave-in to cater to people that don't want the game to be an extraction PvP, and there was no doubt a contingent of people who didn't want it to be an extraction PvP. I chose to play this game because it was a hero shooter, not really because it was an extraction, but I do like that it gave me that door into this genre, because I found I really do like the gameplay loop. Just not a lot of games that are actually in the genre. Now this comment's notable because it's from a more visible streamer. He says, "We need another update on the direction of Marathon heading into the second half of Season 2 and going into Season 3. Is PvE going to be the main focus? Should PvP players be expecting new content?" And I think this is really the core of the issue here, is that the diehards of Marathon have played this game significantly longer and for more hours than the casuals. There's a contingent of players who run Cryo Archive, fight the compiler literally every single week whenever that map comes online, and everyone else is kind of famine, going around the other maps, doing their faction missions, you know, just scrounging for whatever loot they can. And that's why I think the PvE mode is actually very important to the future of Marathon. And I made a post about this that kind of blew up past the numbers of any of these other posts. 633 likes. Of course, you gotta like your own posts. I don't know why I need to say this, but if you love Marathon, stop talking trash about the Vault Breaker mode. The hardcore PvP experiment doesn't even hold 10k. This game needs more types of players to boost to the platform. Maybe help new players instead. And I will say, within the Marathon space, there's a lot of people who stream themselves doing Cryo Archive every single week, but the amount of people who make genuinely good tutorials with information that'll teach low-level players how to improve their skill, I mean, there's not really any of them, are there? They're few and far between. Even the high-level players that upload their gameplay don't really give you any tips on how to improve yours. I like this comment right here. "I'm fine with people not liking it. I'm tired of people having main character syndrome, believing if a mode isn't for them, that equals bad." And I think this is a core of the issue here, is like a lot of the dedicated players of Marathon have developed an ego about their ability to be really good at a game that most people can't even get past the front door. And so they want to gatekeep Marathon, even though this will ultimately be something that kills the game, you know, as the player base lowers. Bungie and Sony can commit less and less resources into it until eventually they just have to shut it off, right? And I make the statement here, this mode isn't for the players that consistently exfil Cryo and have already beat the compiler, it's for everyone else. And I think that's the important part here any dedicated player has to remember, is that they are a minority of a minority. If the current player numbers are under 10,000 and possibly 3 million people have bought Marathon, that's like a 300th of the potential audience. But realistically, those 10,000 players that are concurrent, they're not all logging onto Cryo Archive. We're talking a fraction of people who bought this game actively running the endgame map, and Lord knows Bungie put a lot of work into this map to make it very deep, but also rewarding to explore and master. And with the Vault Breaker mode, you have all the opportunity to learn, and that's the way I look at these PvE modes. They're really a tutorial. They're a way to teach the casual players the really depthful and complicated mechanics of these endgame maps. We kind of saw that with Nightmarsh and the credit system, how the credit system getting up into the upper complex area, it kind of mirrored the pinwheel on Outpost, which I think was also a filter for casual players. And I want people to understand, like this guy, if you love Marathon, don't criticize the game, got it. I'm not telling people to not criticize Marathon, but the thing is, if you want to see Marathon grow, flourish, actually succeed, actually survive is probably the better word, then as a dedicated player, you have to actually kind of be working for this game overtime. You have to be selling the game, giving a more positive vision, a positive message, because Marathon does not have the best publicity. Of course, you have the Destiny players who want it to die. You have the rest of the extraction shooter fans who want it to die. You have a bunch of hero shooter people who don't like the style. And all of this keeps Marathon from even being visible to the casual public, you know? Marathon is so niche, I don't think Marathon players even understand that, because most of them actually live on Twitter. The amount of response you get from Marathon posts on X is pretty insane. For example, this guy, hate to tell you, we won't be playing this, we're all invested in watching Bungie burn for picking this over Destiny. And no doubt there's an amount of players who aren't going to play Marathon no matter what you do with this game, but we can't consider them either because, like I just stated, the amount of people who don't even know about Marathon or have no experience with Destiny but hear the Bungie name, that is way more than the amount of people who are engaging in this drama. And I think that's where Bungie and Sony are aiming right now. They're aiming at the true casual crowd. They're trying to rework Marathon's image. This comment is pretty apt. This is a game built to reward stomping and making new players experience misery. The kind of player it attracts isn't going to go out of their way to help anyone. It's one of the reasons Marathon struggles to retain players. And I don't think that's actually true. I think what he's trying to say is that the extraction genre is very punishing, and some people enjoy feeling rewarded for mastering these systems. Because if we look at Arc Raiders, it's a much more friendly game, right? Same genre, except they put a certain kind of matchmaking in it to separate friendly players, people who only want to do bot combat, from the PvP players. And it actually worked for them in the end. I know people are going to say that Arc Raiders is dead, right? But its numbers are above anything else in the extraction genre, and I think Marathon is trying to take a page from that book with this PvE experiment. I did get a couple of quote retweets as well, and these kind of blew up, so I'm going to mention them before we close out this video. The replies genuinely made me sad. The whole get good or get out attitude is the reason why Marathon lost almost all of its casual players. Seeing the same effect with Silksong, and despite being a single player game, look how the community turned out with that attitude. I mean, what I will say in regards to Silksong is that I believe Silksong was a little bit easier than original Hollow Knight, and that caused some drama that it may not have been a true Hollow Knight or whatever. We can definitely compare this to something like a FromSoft game, like an Elden Ring or a Dark Souls, where, you know, the more hardcore players, they'll literally say, you didn't beat the game if you don't play the game in a certain style. And there's definitely an aspect of that within the hardcore Marathon PvP, where they're pretty much saying if you don't beat Cryo Archive PvP raw without any milk, then you didn't beat the game. And I don't think that's true with Marathon. I think the most important part of a game is getting as many people to experience it as possible. This next one was actually from Korea, and much like Apex Legends, Marathon has a contingent of Korean and Japanese players that really love this game. I think it's something to do with first-person hero shooters. How could you get full after just one drink? Even taking into account my low farming level, honestly, the PvP that got revealed this time was underwhelming compared compared to what I expected. Still, it's exciting to see the game that was so stubborn about sticking to PvP shifting its direction. Destiny became loved by so many people over the years through communicating with the community, right? And I think that's a very good point. The Bungie and the Marathon dev team have been very open about the way they're changing this game, and I think over time will help to change minds. They just need to not have the Marathon community working against them through this process, otherwise it's going to sink the entire ship. And man, I love the way that Marathon plays, whether you're doing it PvP or PvE. I think the Bungie gameplay is really what sticks out and makes this game so damn good. So as long as they focus on putting that in different contexts, it's only a good thing, right? And this is the final quote I want to leave the video on because I think it's an important statement. It's amazing how there's still so many people who haven't learned their lesson after bashing and publicly shaming someone just because they don't like them, jumping on the bandwagon from influencers who only see them as cash cows, and completely wrecking Destiny 2. And what he's really talking about here is people like Aztecross. We're actually seeing a repetition of a cycle because in the last 3-4 years of Destiny's life, the Destiny content creators made their careers of hate farming the game, talking bad about each update, talking bad about the direction of the game. And I'm not saying you have to cover for a game that's slipping. What I am saying is that if you want to see a game succeed, you can't become that game's worst enemy. And the problem is that rage bait, hate farming, it's the perfect engagement drama, because the thing that really pops through people's feed is anger, because anger gets the most response, whether it's positive or negative, you know, whether it's people defending something or attacking something. Trying to incite miniature wars has become the process of social media and content creation, really, which is why a post defending Marathon blew up so much. Guy ends it with the statement, "It's heartening to see glimmers of opinions like this person. Hey, hold up, let's look towards the future," starting to become visible here and there. And I think I'm kind of on a wavelength here. I think a lot of people are looking for that hope core. You know, everything is so bad, but it can't be bad all the time, right? If I compare Marathon to Marvel Rivals is a game where literally every single update has people complaining about it. That game just went through the biggest shakeup in the history of that game, multiple character reworks, a bunch of new hero team-ups added, new map, new character, and yet there was some people still complaining about the balancing of the game, the direction of the game. And I think if you're a content creator or even just a community member of a game that people don't like, take it upon yourself to be more visibly positive about that game. Literally stump for the games you enjoy. Because I'm going to keep doing that on this channel. I'm Sourheart. This has been Superhero Gaming. Be sure to like and comment your thoughts on this drama.